Hey everyone, welcome back to Growth Vertical. Today's an actual special episode. A while back, I actually dropped on my Instagram as well that we are going to have a special guest. And today I have here with me Rohan Chaubey. Rohan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great and I'm thrilled to be speaking with you. I know we have been interacting on the Reddit subreddit and it's a good to see you live in person.
Yeah, it's really great to actually have you here as well. We wanted to talk about a great topic. We were actually interacting a few weeks ago. How did we actually meet? It's a bit of a weird story, right? So I'm sure it was like I was posting on a subreddit, a growth hacking subreddit, but I didn't know that it belonged to anyone in particular. I thought it was just an open Reddit. And I think I was I was looking to hire someone. Is that right? And then you reached out to me about the rules, and I remember how you said, "Hey, well, we have a separate like conversations or threads for this, and this is specifically for the growth hacking forum." So it's pretty unusual, but a lot of fun, right? Um, but yeah, look, like I guess we sort of started speaking, right? And now we're here having a conversation, and specifically on a topic about growth hacking.
I think what's exciting is that I never really thought that I would be able to, communicate with people because when I joined Reddit, it was so anonymous and it's not like Facebook or LinkedIn where people have real identities and their employment histories written, right? So it was sort of strange for me to even think of, making friends on a subreddit. But then I realized that, okay, these may be anonymous profiles, but then there are real people behind that. And I started connecting with people. So I don't essentially own the subreddit. It was actually created by Ryan Holiday. And Ryan moved on, in his career with different topics. And he forgot about the subreddit and it became like a hub for all the black hat, tactics and spam. So what I had to do is back in I guess November 2020, they handed over the subreddit to me for moderation. So of course it's still an open community, but we do not allow certain types of content, let's say a blog post with a link or a job post, because for that we already have growthhackers.com, which is like the main community. On the subreddit, we want to make it more conversational and discussion based forum where we are sharing things that we are doing with our startups, organizations we are working with, and kind of having like a secret alliance between growth hackers from around the world. Think of it like we are magicians trying to trade our secrets with each other. We do not really want it is not necessary that the audience knows it, but it's just like a trade and exchange between us, sharing the latest and greatest from growth hacking. That's the purpose of the subreddit. But I'm really glad we met there.
Yeah, I agree, right? Because growth hacking is a topic that usually comes up on a daily basis. That term's been thrown around by a lot of marketers as well. Growth marketing, growth hacking, anything to do with just, let's say, even apparently I've heard of people say lead hackers as well, and I don't understand how that would work. But lead generation, right? We can just go to the original stuff. I'm sure that's fine. But just for everyone that's wondering why we're having this sort of episode today, is because we always talk about how can we grow a business, how can we grow a startup. Now, a lot of businesses, a lot of startups, the entire sphere has blown up over the last decade, or probably even more, especially in the last 5 years. You definitely hear the term, you definitely see roles about people trying to hire, startups trying to hire growth hackers or growth marketers to come in and sort of try out these weird experiments, try out these new ways of actually building up a user base for a particular platform, let's say in the technology space. But they don't want to spend a dime, right? They want to keep their costs low. And how do we talk about getting in leads or generating business at such a low cost? So that's why today, guys, I've got Rohan here, and we're going to talk about growth hacking and how you can do so for early stage startups, but without using any ads, right? So we're going to be sharing some strategies there and hopefully some actionable tips on what you can implement when you get away from this episode. So, but before we get into it, Rohan, I kind of wanted you to, some of the girls might not know exactly who you are. community might not know, I'm sure that someone has heard of you because you've done some pretty impressive stuff. For example, for those of you who don't know, Rohan is one of the authors behind the growth hacking book, which was a top seller across Amazon. And also he's been featured on the Next Web, Forbes, HuffingtonPost. And so Rohan, I think if you could give everyone a bit of a background about, what is it you do? Why are you into growth hacking? What brought you into this sphere?
Sure. So I am an best-selling author of the growth hacking book 1 and 2. So the book is an anthology with a lot of contributors from several different countries, but I am the producer of the book. I am the publisher of the book with my partner, and the book has become an international bestseller in multiple countries. I'm in Mumbai, India, and in India it was number 1, like on the entire Amazon store, it was ranking number 1. So it was not a specific category, but like the nationwide store. That's the level of success we had with the book. The second is that I noticed so many different countries doing their own growth hacking days, and I really appreciate our fraternity of marketers and growth hackers taking initiative to do that, to evangelize growth hacking and growth marketing. But then I felt that it was they being a little exclusive and not being inclusive of the other parts of the world. So I wanted to have like a space and hub where we could actually have the entire world come together for a movement, the growth hacking movement. It was of course created by Sean Ellison, Silicon Valley and all these tech giants and people in the tech startups already talk about it, but it doesn't have to be restricted there. We could actually promote it to every single part of the world wherever there are startup cultures emerging. So I wanted to make it a global movement, and that's why I got people in my first book. That's why I said there were 9 people from 9 countries. In the second one, we had people from 20 countries. We ended up making like a world record of a business book having contributors from multiple nationalities. It is approved by the Golden Book of Records, and we also announced July 13th as the International Growth Hacking Day. We have been celebrating it from 2019. So in 2019 it was like an offline event. In 2020 it became online also thanks to COVID, and now in 2021 we are trying to expand it to these 20 countries that we collaborated the last year. Also currently what I'm doing is I am head of growth at a social media company which I cannot name, but I'm leading their growth. This is one of the latest things that I also wanted to share with you. From Monday I'm joining them, so I'm really excited to see how things function at scale, and especially social media, because that's where we all are at. I've been working with some startups in New York, DC, Bay Area, all remotely of course, and my key specialization is getting startups from 100 to 100,000 users and customers. And like I said, there are certain good media mentions around me, but it's not really relevant to the discussion, so I'll keep that intro to limited to that.
That's fine. I mean, I appreciate the actual the introduction into what you've been doing. To be fair, it sounds like you've had like a sensational journey. I know I followed a few bits, especially when we first met. I sort of read up a bit about you, and I was like, this is actually pretty insane how you've managed to like sort of take sort of lead, right, of the growth hackers community, and really finding a place where you can, not even across just growth hackers, but anyone from the startup environment can just come in and sort of interact and find and share ways to actually grow the business, right? I think that's particularly phenomenal because not many people allow a mix and match approach, and I think that's really powerful because you always need a fresh pair of eyes to actually push things further. So I'm super happy to have you here, and I'm sure everyone else is like sort of exciting to see what sort of stuff we have to share. So, I was going to ask you what led you to create, to write up the book with the rest of the other authors as well, but you definitely answered that. So I think what we could do is let's go on to actual strategies, right? So I think let's give people the meaty stuff about why they're here, right? So of course, everyone of you out there, whether you're a marketer, you're looking to actually growth hack a startup, or you're trying to look for different growth marketing experiments that you want to run for a particular startup, and then you have the actual startups themselves, the actual founders, the business owners that are just trying to build up the initial user base, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a bit about the strategy that we're going to have here. So I think, Rohan, do you want to touch on a first sort of strategy that you could be using in a particularly, I guess, broader sense, right, of what people could apply or what they could think about?
This is how I look at it, right? So when you're designing growth experiments or brainstorming growth experiments, you essentially want to come up with all the possible ideas that you could implement, and then prioritize that, and then test do the actual execution to test your hypothesis. And if at all if at all you feel your experiment was successful, of course backed by data, you go on to systemize it further and continue to do that. If something is not working, you pivot from there and try to iterate the experiment with different variables. That's sort of the approach that we have with growth hacking. Moving on to very specific strategies, let's say let's say not getting into a specific example of whether it's going to be a SaaS application or a mobile application or Chrome extension or a desktop app, just talking generally, any product that you build, I think what differentiates us as growth hackers from digital marketers really is that how are we able to come to an alignment with our marketing expertise and understanding of the product, understanding the user behavior and the technology to really scale the experiments that we are trying to do. So what I would begin with is thinking that, okay, if this is the product that we have, how can we sort of use the product and the existing users to come into a self-feeding loop? If I have, let's say, 100 users right now, how can I make these 100 users at least get us 200 of them? And how do we make the another 200 to get us the next 400? So that's where I think product-led growth comes in. So look at products like there is this payment application in India, we call it Google Pay. What Google Pay does is when you become a user to them, you have an option to invite any number of your friends, and you get certain monetary reward for if your friend ends up signing up. Similarly, platforms like, let's say, Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp would have an invite feature, but there is no incentive for you to have them on the platform other than just the network effect and you getting to see their lives. But what this fintech company did, Google, with their payment application, is they gave the actual monetary rewards to their users. So of course they would already have some sort of acquisition cost. So instead of spending that on paying for ads or anything else, they gave it to the users who invited more of their friends and family on the platform. So that's one great example of product-led growth that I could find. I was also working with this company called I don't remember their name exactly. I guess it was InVideo. It's an online video editor tool, and what we used to do is we had like a freemium plan, just like Canva. We would let our users edit the videos for free. In fact, we also removed the logo of our company, and if they could export the videos without any branding, even though you are a free user. And that's what made the product so good that people don't want to share with others. So in that case, how do you get people to share about your product? So what we did, we realized that this is the product that people want to not share because it's so good. That's also one downside of being such a great product, because then your users are like, if I share this product with my audience, it is likely that they might end up losing their job. The reason being, some of the users used our platform to actually offer services for video making, and the tool made it so easier that people did not wanted other people to know that, because they were offering that as a service. So what we did to encourage them to share is we allowed them to sort of have a panel shown to share on social, and basis of their share they would unlock certain premium features that would encourage them to share further. So we sort of found a way to do that, and it resulted in good number of product-led growth. So it's more of like they sharing it to their social channels, and then that inviting other people into the product, and then they again, so the new users again sharing it on their social, and then new users coming in. So it's like a self-feeding loop. That's what we are looking at. So yeah, these were some of the case studies that I've personally worked on. If there is anything more to add to the points, I'm happy to listen to you.
It's actually interesting. You brought some of the ones that are actually more user-generated focused as well, right? So whether they have to take control and share that, which kind of made me think of Dropbox. Now, Dropbox had an amazing, start, especially the way they grew. It was phenomenal in the way that they did so, simply by telling you to join Dropbox, and when you get the invite, right, you can share your specific invite link, and you can unlock more space. Now, space being the major commodity of the platform is essentially its own USP as well, right? When you share it, because everyone wants space. We're in a cloud storage sort of environment, with this sort of generation now where everything's still on the cloud. So they really saw it coming, and to implement that sort of strategy is amazing. I would say that there are other strategies out there which probably don't rely on just only referral, but almost generating FOMO, like OnePlus did, where you have to have an invite only to get your own handset. And as essentially the demand or the buzz generates around the product, more and more people want that product, right? A lot more people wanted OnePlus. I remember someone telling me about OnePlus. I was like, what the hell is that? What is the OnePlus? And 5 years later, I think OnePlus 5T was my first OnePlus, but I still felt good to have a OnePlus, because I realized, oh my God, this was a thing back in the day where you'd only be allowed to be invited by a friend or something to get the actual headset. And there's some amazing strategies out there giving products away for free. One thing I really want to touch on is APIs, right? Because a lot of people find APIs difficult to growth hack, right? Just because of the nature of it. You generally want to build, you generally want to look at sort of how you can use an API as part of your infrastructure, whether you're a tech startup or whatever, and you want to specifically find a new way to grow it. Now, when people talk about APIs, they think it's not exciting, it's not very sexy to market. So how on earth are we going to growth hack this? One thing I urge a lot of people to think about is API limits, right? So we're talking about the limits of maybe requesting certain calls, a number of calls from the API, right? If you limit that, then you're limiting essentially the reach that someone has, in terms of using the power of your API, right? So that's just one way, but there's a ton of other ways in terms of, if your API specifically helps generate or create a specific result for the client or the customer or whoever, then you essentially want to think about ideas around the result, right? It always should be results focused, because that's exactly what the user wants at the end of the day. So if you give them enough, but you realize that you limit it enough to make sure that they're yearning for more, then you're going to have a successful, strategy in place, right, to actually getting someone else on the platform. And it never has to be referral based, but it could always be start off free, hit a certain number of limits, for example, and then pay for the rest, right? Or get a almost like an upsell on the rest of the request limits that you want to unlock, which is pretty interesting. So that's one strategy, guys, right? Or two, I should say, because we're talking about testing as well, which Rohan kindly spoke about. So I think another interesting one is you mentioned digital marketing and growth marketing, right? When growth marketers are technically digital marketers who have just evolved in some shape or form to understand how you can run experiments whilst also thinking creatively around the product and really associating, hey, well, how can I connect the dots with the audience of what they truly love about the product, what they truly feedback as, hey, they love this, but they need improvements in these particular areas. How can you take that, cultivate that, and build that into almost a market-facing strategy so that you can get more users on board? And I think that's the turning point there. Digital marketers can be associated with being siloed in their particular channels, right? Or in their particular collective strategy, but not thinking too creatively around the product. And growth marketers, I think, take that step further, which leads me to say that another strategy we should definitely discuss is targeted outreach and light IBM, right? So when we talk about growth marketing, it shouldn't be only about marketing like inbound. We're talking about SDR driven as well, business development driven as well, how you can source different leads, how you can go after different industries, how can you go about finding the right messaging and finding the right target audience. I think that's a growth experiment in itself, right? Setting that up from the get-go. And I think what I usually love to talk about when I help any client or any customer is, first off, do we have any persona research? Do we have any segmentation that you've tried and tested across anyone? Have you listened to your sales calls? Have you gone across any of the existing deal history you have, any of the trial history you have? Have you found out any issues with the product or any issues with, what the client or the prospect was experiencing for them to even consider you? A lot of people miss that step, and I think that's an easy way to find, hey, I found 5 patterns or this common pattern across these 5 clients, right? Or these 5 prospects. And I think we are finding something that's a major pain point here. If we appeal to that first and prioritize that, you're talking about not spending ad dollars on things that shouldn't matter, but you can, if you want to spend ad dollars, then you know exactly where you should be prioritizing that. And that's exactly where you got the feedback from customers. Right? Rohan, have you come across that sort of growth hacking before, where you're talking about, let's say, you positioning your SDR team or your lead generation specialists with and arm them with a particular messaging and pain point for a particular persona type, so that you can growth hack in that specific vertical?
Yeah, I think sometimes it happens, and because I deal with a lot of early stage startups, so early stage startups are not really sure which segment they want to target, and they feel that everyone, it's like number one, not finding the word what to say, but it's like, everyone thinks that everyone is their customers, which is not the reality. So what I think is that we try to segment, all the audience they think they are the audience into several different segments, and then try to have some data backed answer to, okay, which segment responds to us in a way that we expect them to, and what converts the best. And then once you know that, okay, everyone is an audience, but then certain segments respond to you well versus the others, so it's time that at least initially you focus on that versus everyone else. You could, of course, it's your copy and the messaging couldn't be about everyone. So you have to nail it down to one specific persona or segment, whatever you want to call it. Talking of the outreach, because you also mentioned about the APIs for the platform, the other side of it is that we as growth hackers using, APIs to, perform experiments on scale. Just to give you an example, back in 2018, what I did, I took the Twitter API and created a SaaS application out of it, and I sort of created groups of journalists, bloggers, business people, politicians, activists, and freelancers and regular users, something like that. So different groups essentially. And then we let these users interact with each other through the API calls, and it was just automatic that they will like each other. And what Twitter would do is, in the newsletters, it sends you a daily or weekly or monthly newsletter showing the top tweets, and because of the engagement and similar accounts liking you, you end up being in the newsletter that they send out. Also, when you log into your account, you are shown certain top tweets under specific topics or just your feed. The topic, they recently started doing it back in 2018, it wasn't there, but the top tweets were shown on the top, or something like in case you missed it, which was essentially the Twitter feeds you would be interested in. And if that tweet got certain number, not really like there was a number to the number of engagement associated, but in a way that it is having more impressions or engagement, it would naturally show up. So we were boosting these engagement, getting more followers, because if one influencer is cross posting with another one, of course there will be an audience overlap, but there will always be mutually exclusive audience that would want to follow both the influencers, and both of them, it's a win-win for all of us. It ran for like 9 months or 8 months, I guess, and then Twitter killed it. They changed the API policies and did not let me cross post between multiple influencers. But in that 8 months, I grew my account very quickly, and it was a major win for me to realize that I did not do any work for 8 months and my account was growing. People were using the app, and we also had we break even in 3 months and had about 1,200 users using my product. That was one example of using APIs and doing the outreach. In the Valley, they call it eating your own dog food. We were using our own product to grow our own product, and it was interesting. Now that I'm playing a lot with Reddit, I was reading through the Reddit API documents, and I realized that they have an endpoint for messaging and so many other actions that you can take. So I see new products around Reddit upcoming, which one of the example is Howitzer. They allow you to message people on scale using a specific keyword, and then you can also track the sentiment of the users, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. I think that's great, right? So anyone having a positive sentiment towards a specific topic or product, you would just want to target those users. So there is a lot that can be done. I did something similar on Instagram as well with APIs related to data and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to suggest is that being a social media marketer is one thing, and then using social media as a growth market is another completely different thing. And this is what I expect out of growth hackers, that they dig into the engineering blogs, the API documents, the limits of the platform, and how much we can push the platform and perform or scale our experiments to what extent. I think I started with the sales development and segmentation and reached to the outreach part of it. But I think it all makes sense if we see it together.
I agree. It comes through collectively, because there's nothing wrong with running multiple experiments together, so long you have their variables you have that particular variable controlled and you have the rest that are isolated, right? So that you only have one changing variable at every time. There are times where you can change multiple variables, but in the interest of keeping things simple, people should be able to even simply, let's say going back to the lead generation aspect from sales outreach, I did something so simple where I took advantage of the sourcing process we had and simply just created pulled a bunch of the leads, right, from different industry, different seniorities, because we did not know what target market to go after, what seniority was our best bet, right? We can do a ton of analysis on what we have existing, but if we haven't tested it in a particular environment, in a test environment, then it's very difficult to say, hey, this data technically shows me that this is my target, this is my ideal audience, this is my ideal vertical. Let's go after these guys first to get, we need to definitely make up some market share in that area first, and then we move over to other verticals. And I think what I did was, for example, set up an email outbound automation sort of system where we were A/B testing as we were trying to generate leads, right? So we were taking a pool of these leads that were being sourced of the ideal, I would say, target audience, and we had consistent like variables under control, and we were changing just one variable for each email, for example, with a type of messaging, and we were seeing what messaging resonates with all those audiences first, right? Is it like cost saving, for example? Or is it the fact that we increase productivity? Or is it the fact that we provide flexibility in their infrastructure, whatever we're targeting, right? There's, depending on the benefit of your business and also the feature that you want to associate that with, once you tie that into a unique value proposition and you isolate one of those variables and you change it up per email, you're talking about testing a particular unique message for multiple audiences, which allows you to understand how is everyone reacting. Now, this is interesting because A/B testing goes, like, a lot of people throw around the A/B test and they'll say, hey, I tested 20 emails to audience A and 20 emails to audience B, and my B outperformed A. And I was like, how is that possible? It's only 20 people that you sent it to. And what people don't understand is statistical significance is really important when you're growth hacking as well, right? You want to gather enough data and keep the experiment running long enough, or even if it's in short bursts for a week, for example, you do a week, you actually review the results to see what you can slightly tweak that doesn't have a major impact on the test, and then you just run it again for more data, right? Or you run it in intervals, which is really important. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is it's okay to keep it on for a while because you need to gather enough data, right? And obviously on the back end of that, one caveat is that if something is definitely dying in terms of an experiment, just kill it, right? That's what growth hacking is. Once you identify that this experiment isn't working well at all, instead of being scared of, oh my God, it didn't work, the best thing to do is to kill it and move on to your next experiment, right? That's why we have a promotion and a demotion system when you're doing growth experiments. And that's why we take it in week intervals. Some people like to take it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Some people take 6 months to run a test, right? But that's just dependent on the amount of data they want, the size of the actual campaign they want to run and the test that they want to run. So that's a good, I thought that example is relevant just simply because it was using simple channels like email and LinkedIn messaging, and we were just testing different messaging across multiple audiences, just having control variables. I think we last spoke about, so you can A/B test on email and LinkedIn and use it very simply. And as everyone knows, LinkedIn's a really nice network to do any experiments on right now, but you have to be careful, right? Because LinkedIn are very strict, but their platform is really good at the moment. So their algorithms are quite nice to marketers at the moment, and particularly these people who just want to network. Now, one thing that we shouldn't do as growth hackers or growth marketers is that I would say that I've learned over time, it's never good to just almost set up something, spray and just pray, right? As bad as that sounds, it sounds a bit weird, but no one wants a broad brush campaign all the time because, to be honest, it's not going to have any ROI, right? You want to find out what's the best way I can sort of isolate an audience, target them with specific messaging or anything like that, and then scale to a different audience, right? Or test another audience and then scale up the audience that worked, that showed the most promise. And I think that's what a lot of growth marketers and growth hackers tend to, well, the early bird ones at least, I think we all go through this, right? Let's all send an email campaign to 50,000 people and then see if it works. But that's not exactly how it works, and I think we realize those mistakes over time. So I don't know if there's any more strategies you want to share, but there was one that I was particularly interested in, and it's very simple. I think, Rohan, you might have come across this, and that's almost host parasite marketing, right? Or the idea of let's just keep it simple and call it collaborative marketing, right? So I'm talking about, let's say we go revisit the idea of API integrations. Now, Rohan, what's your thoughts on the whole host parasite marketing strategy, running those, and co-marketing, co-selling? What sort of ideas have you had there, or case studies have you had there?
Right. So I would, maybe we can also call it partnership sometimes.
Yeah.
Depending on what the arrangement really is. So look at it this way. Again, picking example of NVIDIA because that was one of my latest employees. So what happened at NVIDIA is that the team was so you can essentially have 3 kinds of partnerships. One, is where a brand is working with, let's say, an individual or an influencer, or maybe a public figure or whoever with influence and authority. The second would be a brand is working with a brand which is not direct competitor, but they both would benefit out of working together and being in collaboration. And the third is when a brand is working with a community and they benefit out of the community partnership. So brand with brand, brand with an influencer, and brand with a community is I think I would classify partnerships as of three kinds. So at NVIDIA we were working with the model brand and influencer. So we were targeting YouTube creators to do a video review of our tool, YouTube and SEO being their major revenue sources and traffic sources. What I did with them is they were already talking to 250 YouTubers per month for the collaborations, for the video reviews, and we were either giving them the product for free or sponsoring their videos. So we found that YouTube was a very easy channel for us to scale, and we were seeing the revenues very instant because some of the YouTubers had like a really dedicated following and they really took action to whatever the YouTubers and creators said. So I thought of scaling reaching out to 250 YouTubers per month to 8,500. Of course, YouTube has a restriction of, they put you in the verification to find the email address of the YouTubers, but I found a work around it and we were able to get the data, and then we reached out to them. And ultimately now if we search for the brand keyword, there are so many videos around the brand that I don't think any other video creator would have so much of reviews. Maybe Canva would be the number one, and the second I would see as InVideo with maximum number of reviews on YouTube. And YouTube still, I guess, continues to be the major channel for them. I thought, okay, if this works for one brand, it should be working for others. I did the exact same model, did it with another company, it worked. Did it with another company, it worked. And now recently I was working with this one major e-commerce platform. I mean, it's like Shopify for India. It's called Instamojo, and we just ran it for last week. We just ran the influencer campaign last week for them, and they told us that it was like the most successful campaign in the month of May. So what I've realized is that some things, like a few experiments, are universally applicable to majority of the brands, and their results are almost same when you just replicate the same process. So it's the knowledge base that we've created working with so many brands that it's just easy to replicate the same model. So what was working here is a brand working with an influencer in let's say a case like something small, like a brand partnering with, let's say, a subreddit, and they essentially so let's think of Phantom Buster partnering with growth hacking subreddit, because Phantom Buster is like a growth hacker's tool. So Phantom Buster is likely to benefit from the partnership because the audience is right, the messaging they have control of, and the audience, we already have nurtured these people and they trust whatever is posted here, and it's just the right audience for them. I think we have covered brand and influencer, brand and community. The third one would be brand, like co-marketing with another brand. So think of it like there's this one example. One of our friends, it's the app is called, the SaaS product is called Expandy.io. They are a LinkedIn marketing tool, and what the USP is that they send personalized messages in your LinkedIn outreach messages. So it's like I could send you a GIF, and like a moving GIF with your name on it or anything like personalized, and I've never seen that before. And I realized that they were able to do this by partnering with Hyperize. So Expandy is a tool for LinkedIn, Hyperize is a tool for personalization, and both came together to create this integration, made these integrations possible. And now both of these brands are benefiting out of the users that they have, and they are co-promoting essentially. Same is with any sort of integration, having your SaaS product having integration with Zapier or just anything. There are so many integration marketplaces as well, and some of these tools are having so many integration partners that they end up creating a marketplace, and that marketplace drives growth for the integrated partners. So yeah, I think these are some amazing examples that I've seen.
I'm guessing you haven't come to terms with whether to call it a GIF, a GIF, or a Jiffy, right? There's that big, it's a big argument across the community, but I'm sure that not many people still understand which one's the right term. I think someone came out with it and said it was Jiffy, right? But God knows. But it's really interesting that you say that, with API specifically, you want to create this marketplace. Actually, I've found that when you actually build API integrations for a specific partner or for someone that you're targeting, you can almost treat that as, hey, we've done the upfront work, here's the value, right? We would love to partner with you. And they're going to turn around and say, hey, these guys built an entire integration for our platform, and just simply by connecting their tool to ours. And there's some really good examples, like you mentioned, with Zapier. There's Atlassian, who's a huge, giant when it comes to the marketplace of APIs as well, right? Because they have their own platform. But there's some interesting stuff, even with licensing, right? So just finding partnerships, but getting someone to almost grab a licensing agreement so that they can sell on to their customers on behalf of you. Why? Because they have access to the entire user base, right? The only issue I see is that there's a lot of founders or that don't want to go through the licensing route or don't want to give away anything to do with the platform. But I think that it's okay sometimes, so long you've worked out a good enough deal where there's good control for your business, but there's also control for the end partner, for them to sort of tailor the way that they want to charge back, right, those clients, because they already have a structure in place, and for them to recreate structure is a lot of work on their end. So if you provide them with that model, then it's more likely that you're going to get a good partnership in place, right? And they're going to give you some great recommendations. So I think, definitely one for a lot of people to consider, that always flies underneath the radar. Not a lot of people tend to consider it, but it should be considered. But I think those are great strategies we've shared today. I think there's a lot more we can always talk about, and I'm sure, I'm hoping that we can have you back on here as well, Rohan, because it's been amazing, right? So, I appreciate it. I don't know if there's anything you want to add before we sort of wrap up in the interest of time.
Yeah, I think there's one message that I share everywhere I go, and it is this. One is, of course, to learn from people who have been there and done that, especially applicable to growth marketers. You want to be updated with everything latest happening and what are the new tools and channels and specific strategies on those channels. So always be connected with your peers. The second is collaboration. I always believe in collaboration. What we are doing right now itself is an example of collaboration. And the third is to teach people who are just starting out, maybe first time founders or majorly new growth hackers or growth marketers who may not have understood the term yet, and they still think that growth hacks are silver bullets, which essentially we know that they are really growth experiments and not really silver bullets. So yeah, the three things: learn from people who have been there and done that, collaborate with your peers, and the third one being teach the newbies essentially. And
those are fantastic points. I think I don't have anything to add, because I would actually advocate all of those. Me and Rohan sort of got together through just shared networking and just by chance try to interact on groups, right, on subreddits. And I think I encourage everyone to do so as well, because asking for help is never a problem. You're always going to be in a position where you are just carrying out digital marketing, but there's going to be an opportunity where you have to figure out something around the product, how you can get growth, how you can sort of ensure that you get high growth from nothing, essentially. How can you do that? How can you spin it out of thin air? And that's where you get creative. That's where everything that you know from digital marketing gets applied there. But you also have to understand the audience, the product, the space, so that you can see, hey, what can I suggest here in terms of a strategy to really drive growth here, right? And I think a lot of founders and CEOs, startups overall, can take this and say to themselves today, at the end of the day, how can we sort of help maybe the users take control of this journey? So the actual users that love this product, how can they take control of this journey and sort of share that? Or how can we build it or build a feature to support the platform's growth, right? So build marketing within the platform to actually get it to grow without having to spend money on ads, right? And ads are getting expensive. So a lot of people need to sort of find new ways to growth hack, essentially. But there we have it, everyone. If you're looking to grow a startup, or you're looking to grow a business, and you have little to no budget, these strategies today that we've shared, three, and I think we've shared like 3 or 4 today, actually, maybe a few more. But hopefully these tips can help you find ways of actually growing your platform, growing your particular technology products or services, and allow you to sort of market yourself effectively, efficiently, without the added spend and the added waste, right? So thank you, Rohan, once again. I always, it's been amazing. It's been insightful. And these tips that we've definitely shared today, I would say that they are actionable. There's a lot of detail that some people can take away from this and actually apply in their own environments. So actually, it's good food for thought, right? So that they can start thinking about experiments and strategies in a different way, in a very growth-oriented way. Now, one thing I'm going to say, though, is anyone who hasn't actually connected with Rohan, I'm sure, Rohan, you're okay with people connecting with you, but how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you if they have any questions, and how can they join this growth hacking community, right?
Yeah, so I would suggest the best place to find me is Reddit, where all the wonderful discussions about growth marketing happen. So just head over to Reddit and search for growth hacking, and you would just find our subreddit. In case you want to get in touch with me, my Reddit account name is Intelligent Canned Food. I don't know why is that name. Maybe Reddit suggested me that, and you can just Google me and to find my Amazon, my books on Amazon and other platforms. But yeah, Reddit is the place.
Intelligent Canned Food, seriously?
Intelligent Canned Food.
Reddit could have been nicer to you.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed the discussion and the chat with you.
I appreciate it, Rohan. And what I'll do is that for everyone that didn't catch that, I'm going to link some of Rohan's his Reddit account, the Reddit sort of thread that we're talking about, the growth hacking thread. I'll link that in the description below, and I'll also provide a link to Rohan's Instagram so you guys can follow him and keep up to date with some of the updates he usually has. And there's a lot of updates, right? Because he's always working on some cool stuff. So anyway, everyone, if you liked today's episode and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe and like the video for sure, right? And if you want to see any particular topics, if you want us to discuss any particular topics, or you want to see Rohan back here on the channel, then please drop them in the comments below, and we'll definitely try and follow up and create something around that. Otherwise, I appreciate everyone coming in today, and thank you, Rohan, once again. And I hope everyone has a good day. Take care. See ya.